July is historically a risk on month for stocks, but then it's followed by August with seasonality is the worst month for stocks. So everyone knows about Nvidia. A lot of people talk about kind of the same stocks. We know about the Mag 7, but like names like Broadcom, AVGO, this is one that's going to be a long-term winner and teach people how to play those the right way, where you buy closer to oversold, sell closer to overbought. And now people, have doubled their portfolio since April. Pretty crazy.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is Mariusz Konieczny, and I'm chatting with Brett from the Brett Stock Picker YouTube channel. Brett, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, it's great to be on here, and I've watched some of your podcasts. I like what you're doing.
Yeah? Okay. So I watched some of your videos. Your story is interesting. So let's get to it. How did you get into investing? I think you started off with $3,000. You grew it quite a bit. So I think people want to hear your story.
Yeah, I'll walk you through the journey. So it all started with mutual funds back when I was 16 years old. My parents got me involved with American funds, I remember. And then in high school, I worked at Walgreens. That was my first job. And they had a project at school, which was cool, through one of my classes, where you get to track a stock and follow it. And so I was following Walgreens stock. And so that's really where I started to love, researching and just looking at stocks. And the funny thing about Walgreens actually is when they opened the 4,000th store, when I was working back in the day, they issued stock to their employees. And so I got free stock, and I sold that stock to go to Europe back in 2006. And the funny thing is I sold it when it was at $40 per share, and Walgreens stock at this point today in 2025, like 20 years later, is way less than that now. Isn't that crazy? So I think it was
it is crazy.
It was a good move using that right when I was young to go backpacking. But anyways, so that's where, so it started there. And then Facebook stock, me and my dad, got in that one at its IPO. And so that one obviously took off. And then I really got, more and more into, stocks and researching, balance sheets, financials, everything, valuation revolving around companies. And then me and my dad played some oil stocks, which was really funny. Told you the story about Silica, SLCA is this stock. So it's in fracking. So this was back, in the day when oil was obviously a lot bigger. Now I believe, semiconductors are the new oil. But back then I was working, selling insurance, cancer insurance, heart insurance, accident insurance, that kind of stuff, supplemental. But I was talking to some farmers, and there were two brothers. One of them had one eye, but I was talking to them, and they said there's a silica plant right across the way. You can actually see part of it from their property. And they were saying, this is going to be big. You should look at this stock, SLCA. And so I did, and ended up buying that, and it went way up. And so me and my dad made money on that one. And we played the cycles, but we're like, nope, don't want to do oil anymore, And then artificial intelligence came along, and that, I was immediately drawn to that. That's what I like, new technologies coming out. And so, the rest is kind of history from there. Upstart is a stock I remember playing, and my members, people that follow me, I've been talking about Upstart for a long time. This is the AI lending company that's kind of changing the game, with, FICO, the standard credit score, right? They use, 30 data points or less when trying to decide if someone, to approve a loan or not. And now Upstart is using AI, where they offer, 1,600 data points or more to decide whether someone can get a loan or not. And so with AI becoming big, that's one that went up. I remember back in the day to $399 a share, and now it's pulled all the way back down. It came down even into the teens at one point. And then, me and my followers have played this one and made a lot of money. So again, membership's the way to go, obviously, with the channel, because I do a lot of educational things, with my channel. We're teaching RSI, relative strength index, oversold and overbought conditions. People that like to day trade, for example, I offer low float, high volume stocks and teach people how to play those the right way, where you buy closer to oversold, sell closer to overbought. And so a lot of educational stuff, when people are a member, and also doing gift card competitions. Like I said, the RSI, do one-on-one trainings teaching RSI and trading. And whether it's short-term swing trading, long-term investing, I have a Millionaire Maker stock portfolio that's done really well that people made a lot of money on. And I also have a small cap Millionaire Maker portfolio as well because of interest rate cuts. How the small caps, the interest rate sensitive stocks should do a little bit better. And so that's one. So people are making some good money. And like I said, educational. And also when I'm personally buying and selling, I put out alerts on that. And anything, the nice thing too is I pride myself on getting back to people's comments right away. When they, in real time, a lot of people put out videos, later, obviously when the day's over, but during during actual trading, I get back and help people, with, whatever they need. And also, coming up with a game plan, right? Because that's the thing. A lot of people go into a week and they don't really have a plan. They're just buying things. And so I help people, know what data is coming out, right? And if there's fresh positive news on a company, that's what I like to alert on to my members right away. First thing when the news is dropped, usually it's in the pre-market, I'll put that news out to members and so we can make money on it. And it's quick plays though, where you get in and out fast, with that kind of stuff. But then, like I said, there's also the long.
So do you mostly do trading or do you hold your positions?
So I do both. That's what's great. So I teach having a long-term investment account as well as a short-term trading account. And then I will play a stock that I like in both accounts, for example. And so then when we play it in the short-term account, I don't have to get greedy, or we don't get greedy, me and my members, because we can, trim as it's going up and raise their stop loss above break even to make sure we lock in a win on that trade. And then if it does stop us out, we get a win. And no worries, even if the stock goes higher, right, and we sell, and then it goes way higher and we miss out, the nice thing is we still have it in our long-term investment account. So we can, we still have it so it can go higher and we can, benefit from that. So, a lot of people have a tough time. They have one trading account, right? And they don't know, should I hold this, right? Should I sell? And so that's a great thing when you have two separate, it helps compartmentalize. So you can play it in your short-term account. You get that pop, right? You take your money, you take your profit, and then you don't have to worry if it goes higher because you still have it in your long-term investment account. And we kind of look at it like if you make money in your short-term account, the profit you made there, you can consider, right, as house money, right, in your long-term account. So then you can just let that go and you can't lose a thing. So that's kind of what I teach, and that's help people, compartmentalize, with should I, short-term trading and long-term investing.
Now, in your recent video, you talked about how it's a risk on now.
Right. In the month of July, yes, because July is historically a risk on month for stocks, but then it's followed by August, which is with seasonality is the worst month for stocks, right? So that's why while the getting is good in July, we've been playing these stocks that have been hot. A lot of these, for example, crypto-related stocks. How companies are adopting. We know MicroStrategy, which is now called Strategy.
The treasury.
Correct. They started with the Bitcoin treasury strategy, and now it's the Ethereum treasury strategy that's catching on. Which it started with Bitmine Immersive Technologies, BMNR. Tom Lee joined the board of directors with that company. And a lot of people, bought this low when I put it out there to my members, and it shot up to over $100 a share. And I put it out when it was at like $12, $13 a share. So that was an enormous win quickly. And so more and more companies are adopting that Ethereum treasury strategy. And also another one is SharpLink Gaming, SBET, which is the #1 holder of Ethereum. So these, I'm trying to keep up with the latest, where the trends are, where money is rotating into, and members get access to this, on a daily basis, of that. And like I said, we have the long-term stuff too, because the true way to make money, right, build generational wealth is holding long-term in the stock market, right? That's where you can get those exponential returns, with those profitable, those good companies that have positive free cash flow, all that, So I deal with both.
So on that front of, long-term holdings, what kind of stocks do you like right now that would fit that, 5 to 10 year horizon?
Right. So everyone knows about Nvidia. You know, a lot of people talk about kind of the same stocks. We know about the Mag 7, but like names like Broadcom, AVGO, you know, this is one that's going to be a long-term winner, for example. And you can even look at Marvell, MRVL, which is in the same space. Now, this stock hasn't gotten as much love lately because of, for example, you know, Amazon is working with custom chips now. So first off, that's what Broadcom does. If you don't know on Marvell, they're in the custom chip side of things, the ASIC chips. And so, you know, these are being used more and more, like Amazon's using. A lot of the mega caps are making their own customized chips now. And so Amazon works with Marvell, for example, with their Trainium chips. And the new Trainium 3 and Trainium 4 chips, the reason why this stock hasn't done as well is because people are nervous that Amazon, maybe they won't work with Marvell in the future with Trainium 3 and Trainium 4. But if they do, then this stock's going to recover. So that's one I like that has a smaller market cap than Broadcom. So that's just one example. I like the nuclear power space a lot right now because we're in a nuclear power revolution. You know, obviously with all the AI.
Oklo, right? Oklo Nano Energy, right?
So yeah, they're still pre-revenue, you know, but at some point they'll get to revenue. You know, that's where I use RSI because a lot of these are overbought right now, right? So you have to wait for the right entry points. That's what I help with. But names
But
like
which nuclear stocks do you follow?
so the ones I've been recommending since last year, which have gone up nicely, Vistra Corp, which is ticker symbol VST. Okay, there's also Constellation Energy, which is ticker symbol CEG. And then there's one of my high risk, high reward plays that I like that's a small cap startup is Lightbridge, LTBR, which they have the advanced nuclear fuel technology that's being implemented as we speak, you know, with these nuclear reactors, nuclear power plants. So that one is one I think can be an exponential, you know, gainer down the road if they go mainstream, which I think they're going to do it. So those, and then there's also, let's see, the other one on the list is Centris Corp.
What do you think? What do you think about the modular nuclear reactors?
Yeah, you know, Bill Gates, you know, is behind Terra Power, which is a private company. So he believes in, obviously, as well, they're building nuclear reactors. It's going to take time for that to get built, but it's clean energy. And obviously, with the data centers being built everywhere, right, we need the clean energy. And, you know, Trump obviously signed the executive orders for that. And, you know, it's not just nuclear power, it's also natural gas that's big right now. Also, you know, he wants to get coal up and running. And obviously, you know, oil exploration, all that. But really, my focus is on, you know, the nuclear power side of things. The other one is Centris Corp, ticker symbol LEU, which has had a really nice run. And so this one's a small cap too that I believe will do well long term. So those are my favorite plays in the nuclear power space. And then like in the data center space, for example, you know, Oracle's kind of leading the way with that. And also Vertiv Holdings, which is VRT. That's another great company. And then obviously everything revolving around AI, you know, I really do believe in the AI revolution, you know, that's taking place, that this is a once in a lifetime thing happening because it's making businesses more efficient, right? By reducing labor costs, which helps, you know, margins and earnings per share. And then obviously the productivity of AI is helping revenue with the top line growth. So that's why, you know, I think over time, you know, that these can continue to do well, you know, with the demand. Obviously, you know, it's cyclical with semiconductors, right? At some point, supply is going to catch up with demand, but it's not yet, you know.
What do you think about the AI infrastructure stocks?
Yep, that's very smart because a lot of this bill that just got passed, there's money going to be spending towards energy infrastructure. So the energy secretary, Chris Wright, I listened to him just last week talk about how natural gas is the cheapest right now. They're focusing on that. And then also nuclear power because of it, you know, being cheaper and clean energy as well.
By infrastructure, AI infrastructure stocks, I mean like companies that build out data centers for
yes.
rent.
Right. So like Vertiv Holdings that I mentioned, VRT, they do everything around AI infrastructure, for example. And then, like I said, Oracle with the data center build out as well, they're benefiting from that boom as well. So those are two, for example. You know, some people like SMCI, Super Microcomputer, right, with their liquid cooling, all that. And obviously they had those accounting issues in the past. But as long as those don't come back, the demand's there. And they just got to deal with Data Bolt in Saudi Arabia, for example. And that's supposed to bring in $2.5 billion in annual revenue moving forward, which is going to help their numbers. And obviously, if their profit margins improve, which I think they will with time, the stock can go higher. If you remember, this was over $100 a share at one point, and now it's around 50, somewhere around there. So that's one some people like. But obviously, with the accounting issues, Vertiv Holdings is a safer one. You can look in that area. Obviously, Oracle, like I said, those are some names. With the AI infrastructure, Arista Networks is another one, like ANET, that has really strong positive free cash flow that I like. Strong company that I think will do well long term as well. So these are all in the Millionaire Maker portfolio, which is nice. Members have access to this, and I have price targets in there, and I alert when I'm buying, and what I'm doing personally. Okay. And then also, they have the small cap Millionaire Maker portfolio as well for those that like to take on a little more risk. Like I said, as we go into interest rates.
So what kind of companies fit into the small cap millionaire portfolio?
So
like
Navitas, for example, like NVTS, they got that partnership with NVIDIA. Their gallium nitride technology, I think, is going to be a game changer. And now with, NVIDIA being behind Navitas, I think this is one that can do well long term, for example. So that one, and then I mentioned LTBR, which is Lightbridge. That's in the nuclear power side of things. Again, it's a startup, right? So it's going to take time, right, for them. But these are ones, like I said, that I'm holding long term that I think can be exponential winners, down the road, because they're in big themes, right? That's what I focus on with the Millionaire Maker stocks, is the big theme names that aren't going away anytime soon, right? Like the weight loss boom, like Eli Lilly is leading the way with that, for example, right? That's obviously people rely on those, right? Now they're coming out with oral pills, right, instead of injections with that. So that's going to be the next thing, plus Alzheimer's, things like that. So all these big theme names are in, like I said, the Millionaire Maker portfolio for members, and they have access to that, and I constantly update on that and let people know what I'm doing. So.
Now, do you follow? Do you incorporate, macro information into your choices, like interest rates, money supply?
Yeah. Yes, macro, technical, fundamental. They're the three legs of the stool. So macro, geopolitics, what's going on around the world. Yep, inflation, Fed, I alert on all that. Yep, the daily, news that's coming out, economic data. And then charting with members, again, I do with RSI, teaching that and looking at the chart, support, resistance, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, educational stuff constantly, working with charts. And then also, like I said, the fundamental, that's the most important. We know earnings are what drives a company's stock price in the end. So obviously alerting on earnings and which ones are good companies that beat and raised on their guidance. That's the key. Companies that raise their guidance, those are the ones that can keep that momentum going. And like I said, with our big theme names, I do all that. So I alert on that.
Okay, and so if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you on X or YouTube or anywhere? Any information?
Yep. So on YouTube, just go to Brett the Stock Picker, and it's Brett with 2 T's and then the Stock Picker. Okay, and that's it. I'm on YouTube. I keep it simple with one platform, and like I said, I pride myself on getting back to people's comments right away, in real time, and so I will continue to do that. And it's going to benefit people greatly when they do become a member. I can put a link, into this video for folks to, if they want to sign up. You can always just become a subscriber first and then become a member later. But that's where you're really going to benefit. So we do gift card competitions. Like I said, I let you know, I alert when I'm buying and selling. I alert on, like I said, the RSI, teaching you how to become a better day trader. If you want to swing trade, if you want to do long-term investing, I have you covered, in any of that you need. And then also with the, like I said, the technicals, the macro, whatever you want to see, it's tailored to what my members want to see. And that's what's great.
All right, great. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me. Like I said, keep doing what you're doing. I love the name of your show too. It's all about looking for undervalued, right? Plays overlooked and undervalued, right? And catching that upside. So I don't like to recommend, right, stocks that have already at all-time highs, right? We want to get good entry points so then we can catch that upside back up, you know? So for example, in April and May, right, when there was a lot of fear around, right, with the tariffs, that's where I was pounding the table, telling people the dollar cost average, you know, into these millionaire maker stocks. And now people, you know, have doubled their portfolio since April. Pretty crazy. But that's what's amazing about, you know, with this AI boom, you keep, you know, the long-term mindset, the big picture point of view that this is a once in a lifetime boom with artificial intelligence. And so you guys, like I said, become a subscriber, become a member if you really want to benefit. And I'll keep alerting you, you know, on everything going on and what I'm doing personally. And we'll have some fun on the way. That's what it's all about, you know, the journey. So join me on the journey, guys. Look forward to seeing you and talking to you.